tinfoil hat. Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Ehret, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
All right, guys, and welcome to the final Tinfoil Hat 2025. Yes, we're live from the Wise Wolf Gold and Silver Studios. Go to Sam Tripoli.gold and use the promo code Tinfoil, and you too can get in on the Precious Metals game for as little as $50 a month. I'm up in my number, dude. Daddy's going hard to paint, okay? Very excited to have this guest on. He is a podcaster, he is a researcher, and he is a cartoonist, which I'm very excited to talk to him about. Please welcome Matt Ehret. How are you, brother?
Hey, pleasure. I'm very happy to join you.
We're glad you're here. We're honored that you're taking us out 2025. It's been a great year. Couldn't ask for a better guest to have for the final episode. Matt, for those who are not familiar with you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where our listeners can find you?
Sure, yeah. Well, they can go to CanadianPatriot.org. It's a geopolitical journal I set up back in 2012. A lot of the books that I publish and the videos that I've been making with my wife over the past few years come out under that banner. So that also has all of our books, including the new Revenge of the Mystery Cults trilogy that we just produced.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, it's a wild ride. And then also there's Rising Tide Foundation. And Substack is sort of our bread and butter more or less these days. So that's also a thing.
Who are we talking to that they really love Substack, that they feel like it's going back to the old-fashioned blogging? I like Substack. I don't get a lot of traction there, but I like to go there and put my content just to help them with content. So if people do go there, there's a ton of content there for there's so many people on there, but I just feel like I got to be a part of it. Speaking of cartoons, I myself have a comic book coming out. It is called Chaos Twins. Just go to chaostwins.com. Episode 2 should be out early next year. I know we've been talking about it for a while. We're finishing it up, and it's just a great comic book for the kids. They can learn about the world of conspiracies while being entertained, and we're very excited about it. I'm very proud of it. It is literally the only children's entertainment I do family friendly. So if you want to gift for your kids, please check out chaostwins.com. So Matt, I always ask, or Mark tells me what the guests want to talk about. You brought up some of my favorite topics. I'm very, very much into the occult. I am constantly having debates with people. There's a lot of people who hate the Muzzies. We hate, Muslims. And I understand that because the propaganda, and this is not saying that Islam is a peaceful religion, okay? But what I am saying is that how far back are you going to go with your data?
Yeah.
Where do you stop when you went at trying to figure out what's going on? Because, when we know that the British created all the lines, the borders of the Middle East, and they purposely made it so it was just full of people that didn't get along. So there's a lot of divide and conquer going on.
Yeah.
And when you realize that the first king of the House of Saud was a British spy, and that the House of Saud funds Wahhabism, it's like, how deep does it go? So the hidden hand to me is a really very important topic that the average person, our listeners, understand because we talk about it a lot. But a lot of people don't understand that. They don't want to take time to go to that deep dive and do the research for themselves. So I'm very excited about it. My question to you is, where does your journey into researching begin into this whole thing?
Oh, that's that. Okay, yeah, sure. And just to reemphasize before I answer that second part, yeah, people they're way too satisfied to settle on some overly simplistic explanation of the cause of their problems, whether it's Jews, Muslims, Christians, like whatever. They want a nice little comfortable label.
Yeah, it's good guys, bad guys.
Yeah, that just fits into pre-existing categories, and it doesn't work. That'll to the degree that we settle with that kind of lazy reasoning, we will always be instruments of our own doom. And that's the way that these ruptures, as you've pointed out, were organized across national borders, across tribal lines for forever wars, forever conflicts, forever crusades. Doesn't work. So you got to go to something more principled, and that harkens back to days before even Judaism or Islam or Christianity.
Bang, dude. That's what we're talking about. These people, these masters of mankind, are way above these Abrahamic religions.
Yeah.
They're the ones who basically formed them in the image in which they wanted, so that they all fought with each other.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you know, I like using this language of the skin suits. You know, the Silence of the Lambs thing. That the satanic, misanthropic, demon worshipping freaks that have been around for ages, God, you know, before written records, they will infiltrate and occupy and create skin suits to make them seem and Muslim or Christian or Jew or Hindu or whatever, and they will have an esoteric inner sect that will happily use exoteric uninitiated followers from whatever thing that they're infiltrating as disposable tools to be, you know, played with and destroyed but they're all in on it together, right? So you got to go from the top down. People have to really go from the top down and then kind of differentiate that you're not actually dealing with Christianity or Judaism or Islam or whatever. There's this other thing. And I think Jamal al-Din al-Afghani, even more so than the sponsors of Wahhabism in the 20th century who play into this. But even when you go to al-Afghani, the founder of Salafism himself, the guy was like a boon companion of Madame Helena Blavatsky. You know, this guy was like,
wow.
Oh yeah. He was like this Iranian Sufi chameleon who took pride in being able to just be anything you wanted him to be. And he was always traveling the world. Wherever Blavatsky was, so was he. He was advising Saint Yves d'Alvedre, the founder of Synarchism as well, which is directly tied into the esoteric section of Theosophists. And he's working for the British Empire in founding like the most radical school of rigid, like it's like adjacent to Wahhabism that then creates an incubator for later radicals to be emerged and then used as instruments in forever divide to conquer conflicts. So it's like, why? What, you know, it goes back to this thing that they're both devoted to. So who am I? So what got me into this was like back
real quick, and then I want you to get into that. We say all the time on this thing is like on the show that they use the Abrahamic religions as masks to walk amongst us. Because if they actually told us what they were into, I would like to believe people would take to the streets and want to see some guillotines and stuff like that. I would like to believe. I question. I'm starting to question whether that's even true at this point. But they have to use those to walk amongst us. That's kind of their game. So yeah, I totally agree in everything you said. So one more time, tell us what you were about to say. I think you were going to tell us how you got into it or who you are. Or, I don't know. Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, something like that. Sure. Well, it's I guess the same question. Ultimately, two aspects of the same question. So I guess for me, my shakeup came around 2004, 9/11 stuff, you know, so that was my like big wake up call. I became on trying to figure out, well, if that's a lie, what else is a lie? So for a couple of years, I went down some pretty like the bell curve, like for everybody, you know, when you get that jarring thing, whether it was COVID or JFK murder or whatever, the shakeup thing was 9/11 was a big one. Built high bell curve, high depression too, right? Because, you know, at a certain point, you're like, well, fuck, you know, like,
yeah,
damn, it's so much worse than I even imagined. Everybody's being sent to the slaughterhouse. So I, at a certain point, decided to shut the hell up. I was like, to the degree that I'm successfully persuading people to get into like my conspiracy inside at like world, to the degree that I'm successful, they're becoming as disempowered and blackpilled as I am, and to the degree that I'm unsuccessful, people think I'm crazy. So it's either like it's like a
no win.
Yeah. So for a while, I was like, I'm just gonna shut the hell up and let happy doofs be happy doofs, and I'll just be like, I took the Matrix approach. If I know it's not a steak, but it tastes like a steak. Might as well just go with the illusion. But that wasn't good either. I knew that wasn't good, but I didn't have a solution. So I started getting more politically active around 2006 midway, when at least I didn't necessarily believe it was possible, but I at least encountered through my interfacing with some representatives in Canada, which is where I live, of the LaRouche organization, certain ideas and a way of looking at the problem that addressed historic battles that have stopped the New World Order like acts from coming down, which I didn't know about. So I didn't know that there was ever a successful struggle against this thing. So I appreciated that, and it gave me something kind of like to hold on to.
So were they good guys? These people you were talking to, the LaRouche, or is that?
Yeah. They're okay. They were an organization that had a little outlet in Canada. They were mostly U.S. based, but they had little branches in Europe too. Followers of Lyndon LaRouche, who died in 2019. He died at the age of like 98. They were good people. Yeah, very good people. And I became a volunteer. Like I started working with them in Ottawa. I went down to Washington. I became less of an armchair commentator, and it was nice. It was a good education for me to like just get into reality, like put myself into the process a little bit more. There were certain policies that I found like just common sense. I didn't think it was possible, but the idea of like bringing in Glass-Steagall to break up the banks before the collapse happens, that was a useful idea that I found myself like working to try to like build conferences in Ottawa and in Washington. And there was like, it was interesting to just get people who were in the deep state sanctum, like into that structure, who actually wanted to hear a briefing. I was like, oh, there's actual humans there. They might be disempowered, but they're humans. I can engage with that. So it gave me like, again, a certain sense that there is a fight. It's not like everything is 100% controlled by these Satanists who want to kill us all. So that again was a good process. I did that for about a decade. And it was in that process in 2012 that I started putting myself on a program of figuring out what is Canada, this weird monarchy of the North. Like, why is Canada this strange? Why do we have a governor general? What is this Five Eyes thing that controls Canada? Why do we have a monarchy? What is the civil service that's running us? So I, myself and a couple of colleagues put together some serious, crazy discoveries that brought in, the role of the Round Table movement, the Rhodes Scholars that pretty much shaped everything bad, including in the USA, but especially in Canada. The Fabian Society networks that interface with them. And that started resolving a lot of paradoxes. Like, why did Benjamin Franklin come to Canada? And why did we fail to accept his challenge in 1776 to join up as the 14th colony to say we're gonna reject the British Empire? We failed. Why did we fail? So there were like these good resolutions that came with these.
Oh, wow. I never knew that.
Most Canadians don't. I only knew about it because there was this Canada Post commemorative stamp in 2006 that had Ben Franklin's face on it. And I didn't know why Ben Franklin, was in a Canadian stamp. And then I had to like look into it, and I was like, oh shit, it's this guy who founded the Canadian Postal Service in 1756. And it's like this guy who founded the first Canadian newspapers. And it's this guy who's coming up here to try to like do this thing for 5 weeks to organize Canadians to come down to basically say no more hereditary systems. But we had Jesuits, we had Anglican intelligence that were manipulating the whole society. So we stayed loyal to the crown. It would have been a different outcome. Like, the world would have been a very different place if we had accepted that at that time. We fucked up. So like the Canadian Patriot magazine that I created was done because I couldn't get our writings and our findings published anywhere. Like, no one wanted to touch this stuff. So I was like, let's fucking do it ourselves. And what came out of that was a series of like 4 books called The Untold History of Canada that recasts the whole story from like 1774 into the present. And then coming out of that, I was like, I had a bit more of a foundation to start doing the same thing about the origins of the American deep state going back to the 1620s. So like, what are the Rosicrucian networks that were seeding witch covens into America, tied to like the John D. Bacon networks that were incubating and doing battle with legitimately patriotic movement that was always at war with this thing, right? Yeah. And then from there, you can understand what was Aaron Burr doing as part of this evil occult agency in America, setting up Wall Street as a branch of the City of London in America. What is the Skull and Bones? What was the Scottish Rite as a branch of the United Grand Lodge in America that still organizes the CIA and all of these intelligence agencies. And then you can understand, like, what are these American presidents who are getting killed while in office, of which there's 8 of them? What are their policies? Why are they dying when in office? Like, that's a huge number of presidents to die in such a young country. So is there a common thread tying the murder of, Harrison and Zachary Taylor and Lincoln and Garfield and McKinley and Warren Harding and, FDR and JFK? Is there a common thread? And yeah,
wow. If you ask the average American how many presidents have died, they would probably tell you 2.
Yeah, probably.
I would say all of them except the last couple have died. But
well, okay, you know what I'm saying, Johnny. Thank you, snarky fuck. Thank you.
Well played, Johnny.
Yeah, don't encourage him. Okay. So yeah, most people would know that. That's incredible. And I do a conspiracy show for 9 years, and I didn't know. I probably knew, but it never resonated with me.
Yeah, well, it's I think the way it kind of works is that each one, if we're allowed to look at the particulars of how each of these individuals died, it's always like treated as a self-contained story detached from a higher tapestry that would unite an understanding. So William Harrison, 1840, he's in there for what, 3 months? Or is it like not even, it's like 4 weeks. No time, right?
Yeah.
How's he doing? What does he represent as a leading figure of the Whig Party? Why was Lincoln fighting to get him elected as well, right? 1840. Well, there's a whole story about what he was doing to bring back the American system of the protective tariff, the national bank that had been killed by Aaron Burr's assets at Tammany Hall earlier on, who had already killed like Hamilton as a human. They killed Hamilton's kid as well. And then they started destroying his institutions over the ensuing decades, which culminated in like Aaron Burr's assets, Andrew Jackson and Martin Van Buren, who totally annihilated it and brought in this deregulation of the banking system that resulted in the bank panics, the boom and bust cycles, mass speculation. And Harrison had a program to revive a national bank to take back control from the City of London asset. And that was on his desk when he died. And to this day, nobody can account for why he died, except he started spewing out black stuff and keeled over.
What?
Here's how long you get, by the way, if you want to do that. You get from March 4th to April 4th. You get 1 month, 31 days.
Crazy.
You want to try to mess with.
Yeah. And this is the guy who Lincoln helped get into power when Lincoln came in with John Quincy Adams for 2 seconds just to stop the Spanish-Mexican War and do the spot speech and get Harrison elected. And then Lincoln went back to becoming a lawyer back in Illinois. And then again, Zachary Taylor, another Whig leader, 1851, gets in power, does a lot of the same thing to organize the American forces against this Anglo-American deep state apparatus. He all of a sudden dies after 2 years. And the official reason that he dies is he ate too many cherries with cold milk and died. Official reason, I shit you not. That's literally what they say is the reason why he dies. And then coming out of that, you got this Freemasonic takeover with Pierce, who then launches these absurd wars, who brings in the entire leadership of the later Confederacy is brought in as the Pierce administration, Scottish Rite government. In the 1850s, inflaming the divide that's going to lead to the ultimate dissolution of the USA and the undoing of 1776 with the Civil War, which they're trying to revive right now as we speak. And then, so he's Zachary Taylor's out of the picture. The Whig leaders basically create a new institution called the Republican Party at around the 1856 period. And Lincoln's a key figure in that because the Whigs had become too compromised at that point. There's been too much infiltration. So they have to create something new to represent the anti-slave position. And to also not just that, but what becomes the greenback position to take control of the national credit under a national system instead of what it was under the other school. And Lincoln dies the way he does, but he does manage a miracle to keep this controlled dissolution from happening. So it buys us some time. But ultimately, he's taken out of the picture. And, in the ensuing years, you've got a small effort with the Russians under Alexander II, who had just saved America, they're bringing in the Lincoln system into Russia to unify and create a nation that had just liberated the serfs, 25 million serfs. Same year that they were liberated was the same year that Lincoln did the Emancipation Proclamation. And they bring in like the Lincoln system of state-directed credit for the internal improvement with a protective tariff. Tsar Alexander II is killed by a British-controlled anarcho-terrorist cell that's tied to Prince Kropotkin, who's also tied himself to Mikhail Bakunin, who's like overseeing the creation at the same time of Monte Verita in Switzerland, Ascana, that becomes the foundation of the later, Esalen operation that creates the baby boomers and the whole like counterculture Age of Aquarius shit in America. That's
whoa.
This group under Bakunin and Kropotkin. And the same anarchists are then also killing the same cell, Garfield, who's killed in the same year that William Alexander II is killed in Russia by a similar network that's tied to what's called the Oneida Lodge, the Oneida cult in New York. It's another anarchist, esoteric Gnostic cult. There's dozens of these things all over Ontario and Buffalo and New York. One of them generates Guiteau, this MK Ultra, proto MK Ultra mind control operative who comes out of this thing, kills Garfield. He's eliminated as a disposable asset. And Garfield, once he's gone, America's enemies come back into play. They bring in the Anglo-Americans like orientation. Wall Street gets more powerful. They kill the greenbacks. And then McKinley's like the last real effort of a surviving pro-Lincoln Civil War veteran who tries to bring back the Lincoln program again. He's killed by another,
unbelievable, dude. Unbelievable. I remember a long time ago, there was a guy who was on my premium content, and he came and saw me in Minneapolis, and he gave me a book by the Jesuit that listed all the royals that the Jesuits had assassinated. Yeah. And it was insane how many they killed. They're just not afraid to
dozens?
do it.
Like how many was it?
Like I would say like 30, really? 40.
Wow.
Yeah. Just offing them left and right.
That's Clinton numbers.
What's that?
That's Hillary Clinton numbers.
Yeah, that's Hillary Clinton numbers.
Sure is.
Hey guys, do you want to keep the streets safe for Santa? Do you want to make sure Santa gets kids the gifts? Well, you better be ready vigilante style. And there's no better clothing for that vigilante lifestyle than our good friends at True Classic, okay? True Classic is baller gear, okay? And here's the best part about True Classic. It's inexpensive, meaning you're not going to spend a lot of money to look like you whoop a lot of ass, okay? Low prices, lot ass kicking. All right, that's how it goes. T-shirts, underwear, jeans. I mean, do they have shoes? Of course they have shoes. You name it, they got it. Anything you need, I wear it all the time. When I just roam the streets, I make sure there's jackets, okay, sweaters, you name it. Okay, listen, when I'm roaming the streets, make sure it's safe for the ladies, because when the ladies feel safe, they like to get frisky, okay? So when I'm out there roaming the streets, making sure there's no crazy people out there doing crazy stuff that the women wouldn't enjoy, okay? Guess what? I'm in one thing, and look at that stocking stuffer. Go down a little bit. Look at that, dude. Bang. Look at that. Bang. Look at that. They got shoes right there. Those are great shoes for kicking people in the head.
Those are Timberlands.
Timberlands.
Look at that.
Look at that. Look at that, dude.
You can knock someone out with that.
Where am I right now? Am I at a holiday meeting or I'm in the streets of LA? I don't know. I'm looking good. Listen, you might be out fighting crime, but you could get laid. You look so good. That's the point of True Classic. Inexpensive clothes that are so good, you can get laid right there on the spot. Thank you, True Classic.
So you can skip the guesswork and the overpriced designer stuff. Give comfort, give confidence, give True Classic this holiday season. You can find them at Amazon, Target, Costco, and Sam's Club, or you can head to trueclassic.com/tinfoil to grab the perfect gift for everyone on your list.
Yeah, perfect. And we thank them for sponsoring the show. Hey guys, real quick, I want to tell you a quick little story. I recently gave a complete stranger a ride to a baseball card shop, and he was telling me about how he's trying to get his life together, and he was going to use this app to invest that. I go, stop right now. There's one app, there's one website you want to use, and that's our friends at Stash.com. Okay. You don't need to overhaul your life to start investing. Just automate it. With Stash, your new year money goals can quietly run in the background while you focus on everything. Have you dabbled investing here and there, but haven't been happy with how things are going? Stash helps turn good intentions into consistent progress. Investing shouldn't feel like a gamble, okay? With Stash's smart portfolio, your money's guided by experts, giving you peace of mind while it grows. Stash isn't just another investment app. It's a registered investment advisor that combines automated investing with expert personalized guidance so you don't have to worry about gambling or figuring it out on your own, okay? Stash is simple, smart, and stress-free. Choose from personalized investments. Let Stash's award-winning smart portfolio do the work for you. Or pick a combo of both. Stash is there to guide you every step of the way. So don't let your money sit around. Put it to work with Stash. Go to get.stash.com/tinfoil to see how you can receive $25 towards your first stock purchase and to view important disclosures. That's get.stash.com/tinfoil. Get.stash.com/tinfoil.
Paid non-client endorsement, not representative of all clients and not a guarantee. Investment advisory services offered by Stash Investments LLC is an SEC registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk. Offer is subject to terms and conditions.
Holy shit, dude. This is insanity. I didn't know all that. Wow.
And I mean, yeah, when you look at from that period of 1880 all the way up until World War I, it's really the age of assassinations, right? And it's, you've got the King of Italy, and you've got it's not just McKinley, but you've got a whole net. You got the President of France, Sadi Carnot, who's bringing in the Lincoln American system into France, who's also getting killed by an anarchist cell. You've got Alexander III, who's being killed in 1898. Him, it's poison, arsenic. And then as well, obviously the rest of the Romanovs are wiped out, but so are so many German interior ministers, foreign ministers, Italian and other, it's just an age of total assassination to eliminate anybody who's got a competent head on their shoulders. So you have this constant just confusion, vacuum of leadership, and everybody can be sort of nudged towards what becomes World War I, this complete alchemical dissolution of society with the attempt to then recombine everything under the League of Nations one world government thing, which was always the idea which is defined by who? The same people who are running World War I and the League of Nations as the solution of World War I, which is basically get rid of nation states, is Alfred Milner, right? Lord Milner, who's heading up the Roundtable movement at that time. The entire Rhodes Scholarship Trust operation is overseen by this guy who's in charge now of the British Empire, right? Who's then orchestrating what becomes the League of Nations. He's also a co-author of the Balfour Accords. Lord Balfour is a member of this thing, right? In 1917, along with Lloyd George, who's the British Prime Minister that is installed by Milner in 1916 in England to oversee the outcome of the Versailles Treaty. And he's another co-architect with the Balfour Accords to create the conditions around which this new thing would be an organizing principle of chaos pretty soon. It would just take a few more decades for that to manifest, right? So all that to say, it's why didn't that work though? That's always a good paradox that I think is an empowering one. Is why is it when they wanted that to be the New World Order? H.G. Wells was very clear on him. He was a co-architect of the League of Nations. Why did the League of Nations fail at that time? Well, it's because you had people like Warren Harding, who emerged as the Republican president. 1921 or something, or 20, and he basically said, we're not going to abide by the League of Nations, which is demanding that everybody give up their sovereignty and only go through this unelected
dude. Yeah.
So like him, you had President Sun Yat-sen of China that he was collaborating with to bypass the League. You had people in Walter Rathenau, who's the later assassinated foreign minister of Germany, who's also working with patriots within Russia to bypass the Versailles Treaty and eliminate the debts and create bilateral treaties for industrialization of both, which would have worked with Warren Harding's support, but they all end up getting assassinated.
Oh my God.
Harding, dies of oysters, whatever. That's the best reason. He dies of too many oysters and he dies. So you got this thing that seems to lose power whenever national sovereignty is applied by people who represent a cultural tradition, which the oligarchy is afraid of. So that for me has been an important lesson.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. That's the thing that they get freaked out about, huh?
Mm.
Cultural. What'd you just call it? Cultural history? No, what'd you just say?
Like a cultural mate. Like there's a certain a tradition representing a certain idea of human beings made in the image of a living, loving, reasonable creator that takes that shit seriously, that acts accordingly and applies laws and policy in accordance with that principle. And whenever that's done, then the oligarchy will tend to lose their influence over the system that they want to control like gods. Doesn't mean that we've ever beaten them, but it means that they have reduced, they have suffered the reduction of their ability to exert their desire to do whatever the hell they want over society, which has increased our capacity to express our freedom and higher potentialities. You know, so there's this struggle.
Do you see that happening now a little bit?
Less
Like
so.
we have these false flags happening left and right, and it's so obvious, and I just don't think it's giving them the results they want. Do you see that at all?
I do. I mean, I think that they're on a reduced timeline. I think that a lot of what they wanted to achieve hasn't fallen into the timeline that they would have desired. Let's say we look at the celebration of the New World Order and the end of history back in 1991. I think that they really had an idea that it was going to be a much more accelerated consolidation of their long-term agenda back then, when the Soviet Union had been induced to self-destruct from within under Gorbachev, who himself was and Yeltsin, who were like themselves Lawrence Rockefeller, Esalen operatives inside of the occult underbelly of Russia anyway, of the Soviet Union. So I think that they had the idea that by now we would already be far, far advanced in the depopulation mass culling program already. So that I do see that there's been certain upsets, but they haven't given up. You know, they changed Agenda 21 to Agenda 2030 to sort of like remodify their timeline. The idea of the mass legalization of carbon production, which they had hoped to already have brought online already many years ago, they've had to like throw that in the garbage bin for the moment. Not to say they're not planning on bringing it back, but like the COP21 Paris Accords, they've had to put that into the we'll try again later bin. You know, the Mark Carney Bankers Climate Compact, which called for the consolidation of all of these major multinationals who would be committed to ending and legalizing investments into anything that increased carbon dioxide. That was something that that was his baby. And they've had to just do a vote like 3 months ago to dissolve that Bankers Climate Compact, because they can't destroy those countries and those civilizational forces today that are not willing to just simply sacrifice their entire ancient cultures and populations on this altar of Gaia, the way that it was hoped they would maybe a decade or two ago. So you can't defeat them if you continue on with this decarbonization green Gaia religion. They got to put that aside, reinvest in a military industrial buildup, destroy Russia, China, other countries that are, again, not fully on board with killing their people and undoing their entire civilizations of, like, in China's case, it's 5,000 plus years of continuous civilization. India, same thing. So they got to undo that, destroy them, and then maybe get back on their original design of the big kill. And whether that happens through a punctuation of an unleashing of total war, or whether it's a more gradual kill. I mean, in their mind, I think they're kind of flexible in terms of which scenario they're willing to do. They'd prefer, I think,
as long as it gets the results. You see what you're talking about with the World Health Organization treaty, and they're just like, yeah, it supersedes all your laws. And of course, America is like, we'll just fucking suck it off, and we'll go with it because our leaders have zero spine and any integrity. But you saw Africa was like, we're not doing it, and it just annihilated the whole plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they got to get everybody unanimously on board for that to work. So, yeah, absolutely.
Do you think COVID was a test run, or they just fell short, as in it didn't get what they wanted from it?
You got to get that door?
You heard that, eh?
Yeah,
I don't think I need to get the door. Is this going to be like streamed or edited?
we'll edit it if you want to go check.
I might need to get the door. It might be a bit.
Okay, just make sure it's not the Canadian police getting upset with what you're talking about right now.
I'm always concerned about that too. All right, I'll be right back.
Why we do this, guys? If you want to see me live, go to samtripoli.com, and you too can get tickets to my final show of the year. I'm going to be in New Jersey at the Dojo of Comedy, the 31st, 2 shows, and then the big show, and it's coming together. We now have 2 debates. We just need our big one coming. We're so excited.
Nice.
Yeah, we're very excited. I think this thing's gonna the first one's gonna be the craziest one because we're just gonna get our footing. But now, bang, we just need one more guy to sign on. We'll have our 3. We might go 4. But January 10th will be the first inaugural WW1.
Do you know if it will be live, Sam? Like stream?
Yes.
The stream will be live. Okay, right on.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So we're very excited about it, and so if you guys want to see, we're trying to create a intellectual Lollapalooza. It's going to be like a giant, intellectual festival. I don't know how I got involved. Oh yeah, it's my idea. But it's going to be like a big party in Atlantic City. Come out, hang out, and enjoy the madness and making history. So we're very excited. Glad you're back, bud. Who was that? Uber Eats?
That was an Amazon Prime. That's our new economy. So
yeah. No, well, listen. The truth is, I would like to say, oh, fuck people that do that, but I find myself doing that. It's just, I want some sneakers. Bang. I went to the mall the other day to buy some cards, and I was like, why don't I do this more? It's just fun to get out of the effing house.
Yeah.
But nobody does that anymore.
No, the problem with that is they never have anything. Sometimes I go to Target or Walmart, Best Buy, and I want it
Yeah,
now.
but Target and Walmart aren't the mall. The mall is just like an experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes not a good one, but yeah, it is an experience.
Yeah, but even those are fun to go, what is this?
Don't worry, we're gonna have the metaverse mall soon. We just put on our goggles and go.
Oh boy.
Did you after all the push on Meta, do you know how many people are on Meta right now?
12?
800.
Oh wow, that's embarrassing.
That's
really?
Right. Yeah, but it's just consistent with Mark Zuckerberg. Like, if you really study it, he didn't even come up with Facebook. He's never launched anything that worked. Every idea he's ever had has just fallen flat on its face. He has to acquire stuff that's cooking with gas to actually get something that's actually productive. So,
all of these creatures, I think, are just marketed cardboard cutouts to justify, little testing case to just put stuff into the population. But I don't think any of these guys have any substance. Like, even who was it who was controlling? So the first EASA, like the not EASA, what was it? The DARPA program that created the foundations of ARPANET. That was what generated in like 1979 the first so-called social media prototype for within the military sector, and it was called Meta. And in like 1980 is when
my God, dude, I did not know that. That is so crazy.
Yeah.
And we all know LifeLog, right?
Do
you know LifeLog?
That was the precursor to Facebook, right?
It was literally the day it was ended is the day Facebook was registered as a business.
Yeah.
And they don't even dude, just wait 48 hours, then do it. They're like, no, we got to do it now. But it's going to be suspicious. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We're just going to do it. It's so interesting. I did not know it was called Meta before. That is crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I think that all of these guys, whether it's Bezos or him or Bill Gates or Elon Musk or Thiel, I think they're really just cardboard cutouts without too much substance. They're trained to utilize certain syllogistic. They're trained to emote or give off the illusion that they have emotions.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Lines of reasoning, like you would a computer, that they could then repeat on cue in certain stimulated.
Yeah.
When they're
especially Teal is like when they asked him about if he was okay with the world ending or whatever, and you could tell it was like an AI that you ask a difficult question. It was like computing. I mean, it was really weird.
Yeah, and I love when they have Mark Zuckerberg on this on all the podcast tours, and he's on my friend's show, and I'm like, what are you guys fucking doing, putting this fucking robot lizard
I'm just a
on your
bro.
fucking show?
I do
Dude, I do
jujitsu.
jujitsu. I shoot goats with lasers. Come on, man, we're all hanging out.
Rays.
You know, my God, dude, I'm just love to chill and bang puss, bro.
I
Right?
love
That's
Asian
what
chicks
people do.
too, just like you.
I'm into chicks too. I like the ladies too. You know, it's crazy to me. But what were we talking about before we got the Amazon delivery? Do you remember?
Yeah, you guys, it's fuzzy. It's a fuzzy.
If COVID was a trial run, or did it fall short?
I don't know. I'm open to either one. I suspect it was a trial run. I suspect
a big thing is that, like, I think people think that it was going to be an immediate result, but I don't think that's their plan at all. I think immediate results would sound off the alarms. I think the way they've been slow rolling it and controlling people's algorithms, so the people who did buy into COVID never get the algorithm and the news that says people are dying left and right. You know, because they're dying left and right. I mean, people are just they're having brain tumors, cancer, their hearts are giving out, and I'm seeing studies left and right. But I know the people that are just getting a 19 boot. Like, a friend of mine sent me a video right now that showed someone's brain that had 8 shots. Ooh. And you can just see the dead matter just starting to fucking grow.
The question is, was it like that before the shot or after?
No, it shows you at the beginning.
Anybody who's getting 8 shots, I'm saying, is kind of brain dead already. So,
yeah.
You know, like what?
So my girlfriend still watches MSNBC, and now they're going nuts on measles.
Yeah.
And I go, it's not a big deal. She goes, dude, it's an uptick of 20%. I go watch the Brady Bunch and watch how they talk about measles. Go watch how they talk about measles. And then go watch Law and Order when they did their big measles episode of propaganda. And it's 2 different vibes. You would think a bioweapon went off in New York City the way the people on Law and Order were acting about measles. I mean, they were calling the cops. They were just running around like it was crazy and like drama. And Brady Bunch was like, I got measles. I don't got to go to school today. Yay. And they're playing board games and they're super excited. It's such an obvious game of propaganda that's going on. And even in Texas, where like 2 years ago or a year ago, the big measles breakout that they said killed people, later it came out that was just medical malpractice.
Yeah,
that the hospital had fucked up.
Hey Sam, I don't know what age you do this at, but is there chickenpox parties still? Like on TV, I remember watching them. Like, oh, they were.
I don't think that's politically correct anymore. But yeah, I think that was the way I was put into a household with a bunch of kids who had chickenpox because when you're young, you're more resilient, and that's been a time-tested way to just get the kid over that process, and nobody freaked out that their kid was going to die. You just did it. And I don't think you're allowed to do that anymore. I think you'd probably get your kid taken away by the authorities if you maybe. I mean, I'm not saying that that's a fact. I'm just saying that's the sort of thing.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. It's like all the old remedies. Like, I had restless leg syndrome the other day, and someone commented that her mom had restless leg syndrome, and her grandma told her to have a teaspoon of mustard, and she did, and it worked. Nobody knows that. You're gonna have to go get a fucking pharmaceutical drug now to deal with that.
Well, the other thing is, I bet the mustard even is not the same. You know what I mean? Like, I bet you're getting, she's going to go have some French's or whatever. And really the mustard her grandma had was something completely different.
Or salt, right? Like, the idea of salt and the benefits of salt, which used to be, I mean, I get the Celtic sea salt, because you got all the natural minerals that come with that increase your immune system. It increases the biocircuitry. Whereas the table salt that people are taking has none of that. It has no, if it is anything, it's negative net health benefit. So there's all sorts of things, like you said, that we take for granted. That's not the same thing when somebody says mustard today versus 30 years ago. Even it's 2 different chemistries completely. So all that to say, no, I think that COVID was likely a bit of a test or another like test run, another iteration to see how far can you push people. What will we adapt to? What will we accept as far as the ability to lie with statistics, to give up our sense of judging right and wrong for the sake of some hive mind. So they're always just seeing how far they could take it, learning a little bit from when they've pushed too far, and there's like a freedom convoy that pushes back. So I think that that was the H1N1 thing too. Remember, you guys, we went through the H1N1 back in 2009. I mean, what was that? That was just like another slightly more virulent seasonal flu, but it seems to be the seasonal flu. They were just like switching around statistics. Maybe there were just like COVID, maybe there was some bioengineered pathogen perhaps released to give some anomalous symptoms into the population, like the loss of smell or other things that might have produced anomalous symptoms that wouldn't be categorizable by conventional seasonal flu, but it didn't increase the death rate. Like the overall excess mortality did not increase. It was worse in 2018 than it was in 2020. And it was only after the rollout of the jabs, that all of a sudden we see this significant overall mortality actually happen. So, does that mean that H1N1, would they have liked to push it even further? Yeah, probably. But they got the information, the feedback that they wanted, including on the political domain. Because what did they also have at that time in 2009 was, the first potential blowout of the banking system through the subprime. Could have blown out the whole world banking system. Could have happened. Instead, it didn't, because there were certain fudgings, little loopholes with the Dodd-Frank Act and things that kept the derivatives bubble going a little bit longer as far as injecting blood into the zombie. But it was just injecting blood into the zombie. It was not a real recovery at all. And then on the global level, would they have liked to get their one world green government in 2009 when you had the COP14 summit in December of 2009? I think they would have preferred. That would have been their ideal scenario, ideally. Right. While all H1N1, banking collapse, all of this stuff is happening, they got this major green world government conference to threaten governments around the world to give up their sovereignty for a supranational technocracy to force the reduction of carbon on everybody. They would have liked it, but did they get it? They didn't. They didn't. Why? Because you had certain countries like China, India, a few African countries that locked themselves in a room, and Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama were like banging on the room, begging them to come out, and they wouldn't come out. They were like, no, we're not saying shit. And so it didn't work. They had to call it a failure and try again, and move to a different timeline. So they're constantly zombies just pushing at the gates.
Guys, everyone knows somebody who's losing their hair, and they're going through it right now. Hair loss is important, okay? Hair loss isn't just about hair. It's about how you feel when you look in the mirror. Hims helps you take back that confidence with access to simple, personalized care that fits your life.
Hims offers convenient access to a range of prescription hair loss treatments with ingredients that work, including chews, oral medications, serums, and sprays. They have doctor-trusted ingredients like finasteride and minoxidil that can stop further hair loss and regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. No hidden fees, no surprise costs, just real personalized care on your schedule. Think of Hims as a digital front door that can get you back to your old self with simple 100% online access to trusted treatments for real health concerns, all in one place.
For simple online access to personalized and affordable care for hair loss, ED, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/tinfoil hat. That's hims.com/tinfoil hat for your free online visit. hims.com/tinfoil hat.
Individual results may vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil and finasteride. Featured products include compounded drug products, which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information.
And we thank them for sponsoring this show. Do you think that's somewhat happening right now with the EU? It seems to be collapsing. You're seeing countries now pass laws that their sovereignty laws, their country's laws supersede anything the EU says. And to a point, you could even say with the woke stuff, it's like we had 20 years, or when was Barack Obama in? Barack
Yeah.
Obama gets in 2008 or 2009 to about right now. Wasn't quite 20 years, but they got everything they wanted and it didn't work. And it seems to be collapsing left and right. And it's interesting to see how they handle that, and they still push it. They just don't talk about it now. That's the difference between then and now. Like, I went and watched Fantastic Four, and which is a comic book movie, and it's meant for men and boys. Excuse me. And at the end of it, it's like the Human Torch is obviously gay. They're like, he just loves chicks. You're like, he's gay. He's a twink.
He's clearly flaming.
He's clearly flaming. And then of course the mom, fast forward a minute if you don't want to hear the end of the movie. Of course, the mom saves the day, right? The woman uses her Karen rage to beat the guy who eats worlds, like the guy destroys worlds. And, somehow mom's rage is able to beat, this Galacticus, who's like the most supreme being in the universe. It's woke as shit. It's still a decent movie. You just gotta go, oh, here we go again. Oh God. But it wasn't promoted like that at all. Like, usually they'll promote, like, I don't know if you heard the story of the new Blade, but they had the actor, I forget what his name is. He was in that Julia Roberts, Leave the World Behind, I think it's called, the Netflix video, the film that they did. And he was supposed to play Blade, but he read the script, and it basically Blade is saved by 4 chicks.
Mahershala Ali, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Saved by 4 chicks. Chicks save the world. And he's like, I'm not doing this. This is stupid. So they just because they want to do something doesn't mean they can do something. I always say, try organizing a party or a live event, and good luck at having it go exactly the way you wanted it to.
Well, it's like humans, unfortunately, are infinitely adaptable, including to shit, right? Like, but you can't just take a society and get it to eat shit just like that. It requires a certain kind of gradualism. Sometimes, the oligarchy can push too fast on how low they want the standards of norm into the realm of mediocrity and disgustingness to go, that people will, we always, I think we're born. So my article of faith, generally speaking, is that human beings are fundamentally born good. As annoying as babies can be, I think
I love babies. This movement to hate babies is driving me fucking nuts.
Yeah,
I've never in my life ever seen females talk. And again, this isn't all females. We're talking the ones who percolate to the top of the internet, talk so badly about children. I've never seen it in my life. It's the craziest shit I've ever seen. It's
and like the fact that they got somehow our idea of like freedom for especially like women's rights, but increasingly to all human rights, to be principally geared around your right to kill babies, including babies after they're born, where they're just expanding. Once they get that door open a little bit, the idea was always to fully open the door, right? So start with like some extreme cases, and then immediately once people start acquiescing to that idea, all of a sudden just increase it to second to third trimester to after the baby, and now that's your freedom. Like, that's quite the psyop.
I saw the greatest meme I've ever seen it said liberals, and then it was like, guns are killing people, we must stop it. And then also was a picture of a chick with a shirt that said, I had 21 abortions. And it said also liberals. And it was like, dude, that's serial killer numbers right there, dude. If that's true, that's serial killer numbers. I mean, and it's the great mental gymnastics that the progressives must do to somehow think one is okay and the other one is not.
So here's my thinking, right? Like, since babies, the oligarchy wants to project their own hate of themselves, their misanthropic hate of humanity, and their belief that babies are born evil. It's very Gnostic, right? That we're born evil, made in the image of some evil creator like Yaldabaoth, who created the world as the demiurge, is evil in the evil image of that evil god, right? That we're all just in this hellish fleshly realm of just putrefaction. until you can go through the correct rites of initiation that liberate you from the belief in morality and conscience and other things. And now you can be God, whatever. Okay. But so they do that. But the reality is that if you put babies who, like, you know, they don't have any prejudice, they're pure, they're always trying to learn to go outside of themselves, to learn new things. It's not just mimicry. They actually are doing trial and error. They're not prejudging anything. So they have pure humility. They'll play without prejudice with other babies. They will figure things out. And if you put them in a room with like death metal, like Pantera or something, they will cry. They will cry with that level of just like, however, put a kid through a certain cultural incubation, right, where you've already normalized dissonance, like rage music to a certain extent. And that kid, if you can make it cool, they will adapt and learn how to start enjoying the thing that the younger version of themselves would have screamed in agony over their soul being hurt by this stuff coming into them.
Interesting.
So adaptive to any horror movies, right? Like we wouldn't have just in the 1950s accepted slasher films as something that
entertaining.
Yeah. It had to be done in kind of a slow way, with first Kenneth Anger coming out, you know, from the fringes, the follower of Crowley, coming out with his Lucifer Rising and other things, just testing a little bit of the ground to see what human psychology will take in or reject. And exactly, just seeding, and then the 70s roll around and they're able to take those findings and apply it now to a new iteration of what people can handle and accept, until the crazy 80s slasher films of Freddy and Jason and all of that stuff, all of a sudden now introduce shit that are more human selves. Like, again, babies being forced to watch Freddy Krueger will cry because it's legitimately violence on their souls. They're more pure. But, you know, you get kids, again, right? Same thing with the heavy metal, you know, stuff as applied to slasher films. We will adapt and find anything.
You're totally right. Yeah. Which is why they introduced drag queens to kids in kindergarten.
Yeah.
Is to completely pervert them. Now, if you're into that, I don't care. You know, again, I'm never tell you to do what you can and cannot do, as long as you're not hurting people, and particularly children. But you're 100% correct. It's subversion. And, you know, if you get into, like, you know, I told this story before, when I did a USO a long time ago. I went to entertain the troops in the Middle East. And our guide who led us around told us that in World War I, they noticed that U.S. soldiers could not pull the trigger to kill the enemy. So they started introducing gun violence in the movies. And then people start seeing it. And then here we fast forward to gangbang culture. And you listen to any old rapper, they would tell you that wasn't how it was back in the day. If there was a fight, it was a fist fight. And then all of a sudden NWA is introduced and all that stuff's put forward. And now clubs are getting shot up all the time.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, also the video game. I was actually reading I forget which book this came out of, but yeah, where they go through the training of the troops who, couldn't pull a trigger. So you have the cultural manipulation within movies and shows that got more violence to normalize that kind of violence. But then also you had, like, they found that soldiers who in boot camp are training with simple, like, round targets are having in World War II difficulty killing actual human beings. But when you make the target look like a human, all of a sudden you put them in the real situation, and it's much more easy. The kill ratio increases remarkably.
Whoa.
And then you look at why did violent video games emerge out of ARPANET and, like, the military industrial tech complex in the 70s? That's the origins of the video games that have been then later on introduced into the civilian sector. Well, you know, that's also a recruitment tool. When the kids are playing first-person shooter games, especially online, they're also being recruited to become drone operators, to become other. And so it's that much easier when you spend 1,000 hours. Was that?
They've done that. They've gotten, like, kids that are really good at playing video games to go and train with the army system, where they'll give them, like, deals where, like, hey, come do this because you're that good at that video game. They're recruiting them, like, through live. There's, like, people
I mean, that storyline was told years before even like, I mean, Atari was out and all that stuff, but you know, there was a famous game where like they would like some kid was great at a video game and either aliens from another planet would come and get him to save their planet, or the military would come in, they'd use him as hackers. Like they were seeding that a long time ago,
Yeah,
dude.
there's that Orson Scott Card book Ender's Game where these kids think they're all playing a video game. Yeah.
I watched that not that long ago. That's
Oh,
exactly.
it's a movie too. That's right. Yeah, like Harrison Ford's in that, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
I read the
yeah.
book when I was
He
in-
plays like the MK Ultra handler, like Ewan Cameron kind of military handler of the kids.
Yeah.
Or yeah, that's right.
And they
They're
all
actually-
think they're playing a video game, and they're actually fighting aliens in space in this war.
Yeah, right. And you have it also with like Black Mirror, like these scenarios
Yes.
also
Yeah.
in Black Mirror where people think they're playing video games, but they're actually managing this human dystopic future. Totally. And there's a little bit of a lot of reality in those scenarios. Absolutely.
You brought up Aleister Crowley, and he seems to be. I was some points I was going, is this guy the Antichrist? And then I don't think he is, but he seems to be revered like their Christ in the way that they adopted his principles and carried out his message to the masses. What are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, there's very little he didn't influence as far as everything unnatural and bad of the 20th century, including our present day. It's hard to find anything that's not directly being influenced by his progeny and his hellspawn. I don't believe he was literally Antichrist, but yeah, you're right. There's definitely people treat him as if he's like this negligible, kooky Satanist, that we could just kind of treat like an entertaining figure or something. But no. His followers literally set up the Church of Scientology. Whether I don't know if that's too controversial to say it, but
no, say it. We've talked about it. We have a famous joke on here that a Nazi, a pedophile, Satanist, and a Scientologist walk into a bar. What do? They invent NASA.
Oh shit! Yeah, man. No, dude, absolutely. And you got things like Jack Parsons, the whole complex that is completely abiding by the thing that Crowley didn't create. He just consolidated it, gave it sort of a certain type of flavor and virulent practical application to.
He inverted a lot of things. He inverted some of these old esoteric spiritual beliefs and inverted them to almost the opposite. Even like so above, so below. He kind of perverted that as well. Yeah,
I mean, there was the perverse version of that, and you've always had a battle of a healthy versus sick version of that, going back to the days even before Hermes Trismegistus, where on the one hand, it's like you have this healthy way of thinking about the fact that the essence of the creator would express its organizational properties in the macrocosm, as well as in the smallest of the microcosm, and within the human subjective universe, as well as within the objective external universe, which may not be totally objective if we have a creator with purposefulness and design actually shaping the seemingly objective universe. You would not be surprised to find some element of subjectivity, which is tied to purposefulness and intention outside of us as well as within us. So there's a healthy way, and then I think a very sick way of treating the same kind of observations that have been clashing for a long time. And I think, Crowley definitely took it upon himself to represent the sickest, perverse version of that idea completely, which requires like a merging of moral opposites. That's like a big property of like the Crowleyite, but also before that, the Bulwer-Lytton, Eliphas Levi approach to initiatory rites into gnosis is this part of the core formula. Even Carl Jung, I would say also, who sees himself as a high priest of Abraxas within his Red Book, place a high emphasis upon unifying moral opposites, and things like the profane and the sacred should be unified, where no healthy person should ever find pleasure out of that kind of pain or that kind of joy out of that kind of ugliness or beauty out of evil. But it's very Orwellian, right? So if you find, like we're talking about the death metal that you find pleasure in, or taking pleasure out of watching innocent people getting slashed to death in slasher movies or whatever, eaten alive, if you learn how to take pleasure in that, in the mind of a Crowleyite, that's just a necessary part of your initiation to become liberated from the shackles of the belief in right and wrong, in the belief in your conscience, which is actually an illusion imposed on you by society, says the Crowleyites, to keep you from from doing what thou wilt, which should be the whole of the law, right? And conscience is holding you back because it's giving you boundary conditions that are preventing you from doing what you want to be the full beast that is the natural thing inside you that would allow you to have the claim of being God and then determining your own reality, right? So I think that, Crowley did so much. He was at the cutting edge of Hollywood, like a lot of the 1916, 17 movies. He was already in New York at that time, helping to orchestrate getting the U.S. sucked into World War I. So Crowley's doing that. He's in his real life. He's a British agent.
Yep.
Spence did a great book on Secret Agent 666, proving it thoroughly that he was key in getting the Lusitania to be sunk by German U-boats. That was a false flag that was needed to shift the mindset of the Americans towards supporting getting enmeshed in a European war that they were not supporting at all. So that was Crowley who's providing that intelligence that the Lusitania was carrying U.S. weapons, and U.S. was supposed to be neutral in World War I, but it's factual. It was carrying a lot of U.S. weapons to support European powers in their fight against Germany, so that even though there were passengers on it, in the minds of the Germans who received that information, it became all of a sudden a legit target. I'm not justifying them shooting it down, but I'm saying that the reason why they did it, it was a giant trap in 1915 that Crowley was directly responsible for doing, because he had a ton of networks in New York, in Long Island, with the Tesla crowd as well, with George Sylvester the Rake, who was like the Satanist in charge of recruiting American congressmen and senators into supporting the Germans in World War I. And then later in World War II, which is why the Rake, who was the prodigy of Crowley, was arrested for being the American Nazi, organizing the Congress to be pro-Nazi in World War II. This was, by the way, Nikola Tesla's best friend as well.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was a big reason, I think, why the Tesla Tower in Long Island, where Crowley was doing some of his magical workings, was also being used to provide information to occult networks in Germany to receive that information that then justified the shooting down or the shooting of the Lusitania. So you got Crowley doing practical action as well as creating institutions. Like I mentioned, his work in creating the first, what becomes Hollywood movies. At the time, it's still New York, which is the main production studio complex. He's doing this work. You could watch some of these Crowley advised movies on YouTube today that still survive, which feature scenarios like a woman who has a black magician living in a secret basement under her mansion after her father dies and all of her sisters have been systematically killed and she's the heiress. And, you have this Crowleyite figure who's trying to get her to kill herself so that he could take full control of her mansions and her father's estate. Like, that's actually a thing.
Whoa.
Oh yeah. I talk about that in volume 2 of my Revenge of the Mystery Cults book, as well as the enemies of Crowley, who through the U.S. Navy intelligence at that time correctly identified this insurrectionary force in America, and who were working with people like Harry Houdini, who was playing a key role in battling the Crowleyites that were trying to take control of the culture even back then. Harry Houdini is actually surprisingly amazing as a person, which is why they also killed him in 25. Whole story unto itself. But all that to say, Crowley does that. He's setting up the OTO Lodge. He's got the Argentum Astrum Lodge as well that he sets up in 1907. And the key guy in charge of that is J.C.R. Fuller, who's like this top level British general who's openly a Crowleyite and whose books on tank warfare are still taught in British military academies to this very day. And this is the guy, J.C.R. Fuller, who becomes the second in command of Sir Oswald Mosley, who was supposed to be the British Nazi. Had Britain gone along with the plan to align with Hitler and co-manage the world together under this new, satanic Age of Horus, or the 1,000-year Reich that was planned, it would have been J.C.R. Fuller, who would have been the Secretary of Defense, who was doing the back channels between Crowley and Hitler, bringing in Thelema into the Nazi core Reich of the Thule Society. So you have this whole thing.
Whoa.
Who the hell is Sir Oswald Mosley? Well, the guy's a friggin' theosophist. He's tied to the Fabian Society. He's also the head of the British Union of Fascists. And his grandson is Louis Mosley, who's in charge of Palantir UK today. Like, is that a coincidence? You know? So you see that there is this, and what is Palantir, right? If you look at the Eye of Horus program, which that's what Crowley was trying to be, the prophet of the age of Horus. Palantir is the Eye of Horus. The Eye of Horus is the idea of organizing society around the idea that you have, that's on the pyramid, right? That you're all being watched at all times by this all-seeing eye of a solar deity that's looking at you, so you self-censor and control your own.
Why they act insane. You have Larry Ellison's like, we're going to manipulate behavior. The guy looks like he's into weird shit. Like,
Yeah.
you know, he does some unholy shit.
You know it exactly. Whatever the hell he's injecting into himself and whatever kind of rituals he's doing, and none of my business. But there's definitely evidence of something unholy going on there. And these are the guys who set up, like, Palantir is premised on that notion of the Eye of Horus from the Lord of the Rings, of this orb that sees everything all the time. So if you always feel like you're being watched, like you're in Bentham's Panopticon, you will be much more easy to control, like a slave society, which is how ancient slaves under the actual priesthood of Horus were organized, pre-Christian, pre-Jew even. So that's what they're trying to do with Crowley's New Age and his followers that take over the U.S. military, like Michael Aquino and Paul Valéry. You know, these are the head of the Temple of Set. These are like Crowleyites directly, who are overseeing the revolution in military affairs, premised on principles of Thelema and the Church of Satan, modified to the Temple of Set. And he's working with Stubblebean and these various Scientologists as well, bringing in men who stare at goat shit from Esalen and psychedelic sort of psyop warfare operatives to oversee this new type of leadership in military intelligence that goes on to do all of these other crazy things for the ensuing 40, 50 years. But it's all followers of Crowley, who set up Fort Bragg, who set up all of these things. Like, that's what Aquino's operating out of. And he's doing, you know, so all that to say, I mean, I don't want to go on too much of a tangent.
Oh, I could listen to this forever.
Oh, okay.
I love it. I love it because I think this is the real power source that most people don't even want to look into. They just want to get in Jews, Muslims, Christians, Catholics, all that stuff. But they don't want to look into, like, what's the layer beyond that?
No, I know they got it. People have to expect more from what their mind is capable of doing.
You just can't. I've lowered my expectations of people. They're so busy now, and they just would rather try to figure out who the masked singer is than to try to figure out, like, what is really going on? Why do they have to tell us what they're doing before they do it? Because you have to invite the devil in. You know, that's the whole point of the revelation of the method. It's, for some reason, they got this rule. I don't know why, but they do. Well, it's about karma, but it's still a crazy rule to me. That just, they have to tell us what they're doing before they do it, and they basically need our permission to do it. And if people understood that kind of power that the masses have, they wouldn't put up with any of this bullshit, but this learned helplessness over time. Like, you know, it's like the stuff that just happened in Australia. Like, within 2 seconds, they're already trying to, you know, install stronger gun laws.
Yeah, they're like inviting in Mossad to come and, like, have a permanent force in Australian police services now to oversee potential thought criminals that could emerge now.
Yeah, and it's crazy because they got, you know, they've just passed this crazy law which states that you can't be on social media till you're 16. Well, that sounds great if you're a parent. You're like, yeah, let's get them away from all these e-thoughts and all this demonic shit that's on these social media apps. But then you also realize that they had to buy TikTok because there was Israel was losing the information war. So now you're not even going to allow these kids to begin to understand what possibly is going on in the world because they won't be able to be on there till they're 16 years old.
And 16 is really, I mean, you start questioning before you're 16.
Yeah, exactly.
So by the time you're 16, you're so indoctrinated that you'll believe anything they'll throw at you.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, they act like they have to do these types of radical acts to keep the kids safe, save the children. And it's like, well, if that was really the case, then first of all, because they're like, oh, save the kids from, like, internet porn addiction, because now it's so easy for kids to get addicted to porn online. Okay, well, that's true. But look how easy it was for you guys to censor bad words during the days of COVID. How easy was that? If you really wanted to keep kids from accessing like porn, that would be
totally right.
And yet, no, like we have to completely do these blanket policies now of eliminating kids' access to social media. That's the way you're going to approach it.
You're totally spot on. One of the most interesting quotes, and I don't know if it's actually a real quote, but it does kind of lead us into the next part that I'm really excited to talk to you about, was Aleister Crowley would say, I believe it's Horus, but the return of Horus, it was happening when, basically when the earth is burning. I don't know the exact part of this quote, but along the lines when men are women, and when angels come back under a different name, and then you got global warming, you got the trans movement, and now we have disclosure happening, and with the quote unquote aliens. It all kind of fits into what he was talking about. Do you have any thoughts on that? And because you wanted to talk about the hidden hand, which in disclosure, which I'm very excited about talking about.
100%. You're so spot on. Yeah, like these are the new gods that have been incubating. Crowley, by the way, for those who don't know, the actual imagery, the visual imagery that we've been fed of the conventional grays in pop culture, that actually originates with Crowley, who designed ayahuasca. Lamb in 1917 as the first gray, as we know it, with the big head, gray being, little eyes, that thing is Crowley. So he's the designer of that. It was like a manifestation of ayahuasca that generated his book of the law, his Thelema doctrines in 1904 in Egypt. So Crowley does that. His followers go on and self-perfect and tweak that general idea, which itself also kind of comes from the kind of space operas that had been formulated by Madame Blavatsky, Annie Besant, especially Charles Leadbeater from the Theosophists, the rampant pedophile Leadbeater, who sort of formulated the concept that becomes what we now know as being these light beings from the Great White Lodge that live in Venus, the Venusians that came down that can speak through telepathy, and to special clairvoyant people who are touched and can channel the messages, whether it's, versions. There's so many spins and flavors of fundamentally the thing that was made possible by Blavatsky and her Theosophical network that Crowley was directly a part of with the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, by the way. The Hermetic Order founders were all members of the Theosophical Esoteric section in 1888 that had set up the Isis Urania Lodge to usher in sort of this age of of ISIS as well, like the coming out party of ISIS. So
these secret societies just spider web.
Yeah, it's the Hydra.
And you could be in multiple societies.
Yeah, exactly. It's like hitting Mercury with a hammer, as one of my friends had made the point. You think you're hitting the Mercury, but you're just creating these little globules that all kind of go and form their own thing. And they seem different. Some of them dispute and bitch amongst themselves over like, I'm the real channeler of Master Moria. No, I am the real channeler of Master Moria. And here's my particular temple's thing, So they create these seeming disputes. Maybe some of them believe it, but they're ultimately all colored by the exact same principles of organizing society in a very peculiar kind of way around gods that ultimately become at the heart of the whole multi-generational program that was really, I think it peaked in the form that it took right after World War II was finished. And that's when, like, the Crowleyites, which includes the Jungians, Jung himself was an advisor to Alan Dulles. I mentioned he was a prophet of Abraxas. He was a high-level Gnostic. He thought he was channeling Philemon and Abraxas, these demonic archons. That's part of his Red Book operation and his sermons to the dead. But he was an agent for the OSS. He was also the head of the German Institute of Psychiatry from 1932 to 39, organizing the entire complex of Nazi psychiatry, which goes on to formulate the planning and the implementation of Nazi policies during World War II, Mengele and other things, and around how the human mind can be deconstructed and reconstructed around an appreciation for the reality of archetypical aspects that are tied to folklore and stories. So these are like weaponized in a serious way by design by Jung, who's advising Carl Dulles on how to manage human psychological profiles into the age of the Cold War. So it's at this time that you have the setting up of certain stories that are planted as seeds on the fringe at the time, like the Roswell crash and then other subsequent crashes, because there's apparently these aliens that are so advanced and can travel beyond the speed of light.
Yeah. That's my favorite thing.
Yeah, it's wild. They can't friggin' fly. They can jump from other dimensions into ours. They can go to beyond the speed of light, but they can't seem to fly. They just crash into,
You're so right. That reminds me of the red balloon situation that happened here, where. Hello?
Everybody's got visitors.
I thought you'd left. The red balloon situation that had the big balloon in the U.S. skies that had our military perplexed. We don't know what to do.
Chinese invaders.
What is it? And then 2 weeks later, it's like, we shot down this advanced alien spaceship in Canada. You're like, 2 weeks ago, you didn't know what to do about a balloon in airspace.
That's so funny.
And then 2 weeks later, you're shooting down alien high tech alien crap. You pick a story, run with it. It's just absolutely hilarious to me. So I've always thought that these guys come from billions of miles away, and then they just boom, oh my God, your planet's so crazy for us. It's like demolition derby for them over here. It's nuts.
Well, also the CIA back in 2021, the CIA supposedly revealed that it wasn't just 1 or 4 or 12, but something like 79 UFO crash sites have been actually found, and out of which we've procured and reverse engineered tech and alien biologics and stuff. And it's like, really, seriously. Let's
not forget the New Jersey drones. That was just to figure out how far we could take it or what we would run with it, because they never told us what that was.
Well, I hear they're all back, and it's even more, and just nobody wants to talk about it. Yeah.
Oh, I haven't heard that.
I was talking to some people over there because I'm going to be performing there soon. And it was just, they're everywhere.
Tell us a few times what it was, but it was a different thing. Remember, once one guy was like, "Oh, it's Iranian." The Iranians have launched some provocative,
the Iranian ships with FAA regulation lights on it.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it makes no sense. It's still, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, finish your thought.
No. I mean, and then what was it another time? Another time they said it was Chinese or something. And then finally they settled on, okay, it was a research craft going up from, what was it, Princeton or MIT or some shit like that. Something like
another
that.
One. There was another one. It was looking for dirty nukes or something like that.
Yeah. I had a woman at the Dojo of Comedy come up to me and was like, "Listen, you guys are all crazy. They're looking for uranium from dog X-ray machines." I'm like, "This is all for uranium from a dog X-ray machine." Yeah, that's all it is. I'm like, okay, if that helps you sleep at night, enjoy it.
Okay, so here's the thing. So we were talking about the pliability of MK Ultra, what they were doing on mass human mind control, and discovering, coming out of the first test cases of World War I shock victims who had shell shock, that there's a greater tendency to lose faith in their power of judgment when they've been given contradictory information on the battlefield. So first you get punished for doing something, then you get rewarded for doing something, then you get punished for doing something, and people lose all faith in their own mind. And then they began to expand that to group therapy, under Kurt Lewin at Tavistock, who's brought in also to the USA with the whole Bolshevik, the Frankfurt School operation. They were then saying, okay, now how could we take this knowledge of pliability of individuals that have been through trauma into groups of 5 to 7 to 10 to large groups of 30 to 40? It became group dynamics and figuring out how we can get people to adapt to irrationalism when you have a whole group doing it. And then they were like, by the 50s into the 60s, thinking, okay, how do we take this knowledge and apply it to whole nations, to Chile?
Yeah.
And then do shock therapy to a whole society that could be alchemically dissolved in trauma and then recombined in the image of those who carried out the arson. So that, and then like, how do we do that to all of humanity? Like, so they're kind of learning and testing along the way. So I think a lot of the stuff that we're being given, people will receive these contradictory messages from the media telling them how to feel or think about balloons or drones in Jersey or whatever. And all they remember because it's so irrational and contradictory narratives or framing, that all they remember is the felt thought. They don't remember the details. And because they just have this feeling of being threatened, they have a vague Hollywood movies that had been promoted that shape our collective dream, that are produced by certain high priests of the dream, like Spielberg or George Lucas, who are themselves, being advised by leading psychiatrists, like, for example, J. Allen Hynek, who's like, one of the top CIA contractors working on Project Grudge, Project Sign from 1948-49, to the Robertson Committee, the Robertson Panel, also, examining UFO contact, or what are these, what later becomes UAPs. But that's J. Allen Hynek, who's the skeptic for like 20 years, assigned to debunk stories of ETs. But how is he assigned to debunk them before he becomes an evangelist in 1965, massively promoting this gospel of alien gods, even at the UN, calling for world government structures, along with Jacques Vallée, who is his disciple. Together, they're giving these UN speeches in 79, calling for the creation of world government agencies to manage UAPs, or at the time, I guess, still UFOs. Before that, his assignment to being the scientific skeptic is to give the worst possible refutations imaginable. Yeah. So it's like swamp gas. That's what people are seeing as swamp gas. Like, well, clearly they're not seeing swamp gas, you asshole. They're clearly seeing something. But instead of actually dealing with the US secret science program that absorbed Nazi scientists who were working on alternative techniques to creating flying saucer tech that we know existed and was brought into the ongoing Manhattan Project, which, instead of actually dealing with any of those possibilities, where like drone tech is probably decades ahead, we're told drone tech as we know it emerged in like the early 90s. No, this seems to have emerged in the 50s. But instead of that, you create swamp gas. And as they say, a bad defense of the truth is worse than an outright attack on the truth. And he creates bad defenses left and right, giving gifts to the thing that he's always devoted to, which he's a member of the Invisible College. He talks about, and Jacques Vallée wrote a whole book on the Rosicrucian Invisible College that J. Allen Hynek, who's advising Steven Spielberg.
Oh my God,
Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He's on the set advising Spielberg in the Close Encounters movie. He's the one who's formulating the scientific categorization of the different categories of ET contact.
Spielberg, we should say, also has a new film about, the trailer just dropped for this new film about extraterrestrials.
You read
Yeah, it's crazy, dude. Spielberg is such a dark dude, too. It's just so crazy because how he's promoted to us is the exact opposite. And he's just full on in the middle of all of these psyops and darkness. And
yeah,
what's your instinct about this new film?
Oh, it's part of the psyop. It's part of the new gods, because that's the thing that Crowley has been calling for, is the ushering in of a new set of deities that would then be used to replace the old Abrahamic concepts of monotheistic faiths into a new, more controllable set of mystery cults that would shape the next age, so-called.
Even the title fits perfectly into what, Sam, have you seen it? It's called Disclosure Day, is what Spielberg's new film is called. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, and how perfect is that?
Yeah.
That's just a perfect name for what's going on right now.
Yep.
It's just so crazy how like they drop something right before something happens and we kind of accept it because we've seen it through this movie, right? It makes it more and normalizes it for us.
Well, it's the collective dream. Like I said, I think that's the way that the spellcasters work. And Jung's approach is highly useful and has been applied top down to manage the collective dreaming. Is that people will feel like their dreams are their own and not realize how they're actually very similar to the subconscious manipulation of the predictive programming that acts upon the emotional state that is under the awakened sentinel of logic and of reason, So that's the primary battleground, is the subterranean forces under in the basement. And that's what comes out in our dream state. That's what colors if you're getting high with buddies, and different people are experiencing very similar trips that they're experiencing. They think it's their own, and they think the fact that it's similar validates certain narratives that they've been told is this demon or that demon that you're all commonly experiencing. But the fact is, it's more likely that you were all just produced by the same controlled cultural matrix, by the same spellcasters who introduced the same stories for you to be affected by and to be hypnotized by, whether it's via Star Wars, and George Lucas is openly got his guru in the form of Joseph Campbell, who is, Carl Jung's assistant at the Eranos conferences in Monteverita, Switzerland.
Oh my God, dude.
By Mikhail Bakunin earlier on, right? Which becomes the foundation of Esalen and the entire new movement of spellcasters that then shape the baby boomers and all of these figures that are supposed to be the new Dionysian gods like Jim Morrison and others, who are then pumped out of the US military and British military like the Beatles to be the new shapers of the new ethos for this new generation of malleable young people born after World War II. But it's Joseph Campbell who's advising George Lucas. George Lucas is talking about that, and Campbell's not stupid. He knows he knows his archetypes. The Hero with 1,000 Faces program is a formula for the hero's journey that will act upon the deeper archetypical aspects of existence. And he's working with the SRI, the same SRI that's doing the Stargate project in the 70s, overseen by a bunch of Crowleyites, like the figures who are tied directly by Jacques Vallée, who openly speaks about his friendship with Michael Aquino and Kenneth Anger, Crowley's buddy who's shaping the horror movie genre in the 60s and 70s. Jacques Vallée is directly tied into these guys, talking about it openly, but he's also overseeing with Hal Puthoff, the Stargate project inside of the USA. You have Warren Harmon, who's writing the manual for recreating the images of man, the Changing Images of Man document that Joseph Campbell is directly on the team at SRI. And you could read the writings in 1974. It's available online, right? Everybody can read this, where they're literally talking about resetting human self-identity.
Destroying archetypes in which we think and reinventing them.
Yeah, exactly. And so these are people who are directly shaping how many people's psyches have been affected in varying degrees by, Star Wars and the entire space opera mythos affiliated with Star Wars. It's huge. And same thing for the ET flicks and everything Spielberg touches. So these are highly vetted. Asimov, if you look at what's this guy doing as a personality in life, is he just like a pure science fiction writer who just loves science fiction? Well, maybe he seems to love science fiction, but is he just a writer? No, he's directly a part of this massive spellcaster movement that is affiliated with channelers, theosophical connected operatives who are providing all sorts of messaging from forces of the beyond, the Great White Lodge and whatever. So is Gene Roddenberry, who's getting channeled messages from the so-called nine, supposedly living in the the belts of Jupiter. So this is what's directly influencing the seemingly innocent stories of Star Trek and other things like that I enjoy. I enjoy the stories. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, I'm going to be aware of what they are.
It's programming. It's programming. It's very interesting. A long time ago, even I think before these two guys were on, we had a guy named Jan Irving on, and it was a weird episode. Probably my fault. He had said some stuff that I didn't agree with, but maybe I think a little different now. But one thing that he brought up that I found very interesting was that he said that when people do mushrooms, they're not really tripping balls, but they've been programmed so much into what they're supposed to see that's what they see. That's how they act. Because they're like, oh, you're going to be on shrooms, you're going to be like connecting with the universe and all that stuff. And he said that was from programming. Now, I've done shrooms way back in the day. I'm sober 5 years. But back in the day, I had a moment on shrooms that changed my life. But based on what you're saying, I'm thinking that maybe he is onto something.
Yeah, I'm sympathetic to that, as you can see.
Well, because it goes back to what you're saying about when everyone's smoking weed, they're all in the same state. They have the same thought. They think that must mean it's true.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, a lot of it's hard because you're dealing with something that's very close to people's hearts. And I did a lot of shrooms in my day too. But that being said, if you look at a lot of this stuff straight up, like straight objective analysis of where these things come from, if you look at Albert Hoffman, who generated through Sandoz Labs the whole like LSD 25 revolution that was then infused by Ken Kesey and the traveling, what are their names, and all of these different figures who are tied to MK Ultra. They're tied to Carl Jung and Alan Dulles, but they're generating modern. They're developing this in the U.S. military departments overseen by the same Tavistokian psychiatrists that are obsessed with reviving mystery cults in the 20s and 30s. They're all initiates. They're not doing real science. They're approaching it from the standpoint of religious engineering and using these different perverse sciences as a way of advancing their religious engineering. But this is where DMT comes out of the CIA investment programs. Most of the psychedelics that we just see everywhere in our world, it's where they come out of. And you could say, oh, it maybe so. Did it get out of hand? Was it just something and the genie came out of the bottle and now the CIA and these Tavistokian engineers, they just lost control? Or maybe it's a little bit more controlled than we'd like to admit even today, as far as creating certain effects in the zeitgeist. Maybe. But we got to chew on it. It can't be too binary where people just outright reject the possibility that it's more successful than we're being led to believe. Yeah.
I find it also interesting. So would you say I've always thought the notion of that there's aliens was an attempt to kill the idea of God. But am I wrong in saying that you think it's more about introducing new gods and replacing our old paradigms of how we see our God?
Yeah, I would say so.
Wow. And it's just like the guys that they're pushing forward just don't seem credible to me.
Yeah, David Grush.
Who's the guy with the glasses that's bald that was just on one of the Kardashians podcasts? What was his name? He's like the Greer. Is that?
Stephen Greer.
Yeah.
Who's himself tied to Mossad going back to the 70s and with the Baha'i operation in Israel, which
really?
9. Yeah, I forget who. I saw a crazy interesting podcast that just dropped all these crazy facts featuring direct what do you call it? Like proof, like hardcore evidence that showcases Greer's direct role in the Baha'i Israeli intelligence outfit in the 70s.
Whoa!
He comes out rebranded as this new disciple of effectively Lawrence Rockefeller. So if you look at a lot of the disclosure operation, the disclosure movement, as the coloring has taken the effect since 1992, it's directly shaped entirely by what Lawrence Rockefeller had done, including, you could see the image when the disclosure movement that was brought into the Clinton White House in 1993. It was Lawrence Rockefeller who was behind all of that, and Stephen Greer, along with Robert Bigelow and Linda Moulton Howe, are all at the Lawrence Rockefeller Ranch, the same ranch that Hillary Clinton and Podesta were brought into to play their role in, shaping the big reveal later on. And they're all like part of that same apparatus. And Bigelow is the one who's behind the National Institute for Discovery Science, fake science program completely. We go through it in our documentary series, which brings in Jacques Vallée, all of the members of the aviary who were in charge of, like deconstructing Paul Benowitz back in the day. There's a whole story of this poor dude who's like profiled who like lives next to the Albuquerque Air Force Base. I forget which Air Force Base, where they're carrying out a lot of advanced secret science programs. And they work this guy who has a private. You guys heard about Paul Benowitz?
No.
Okay, there's a movie and a book called Mirage Men. Fantastic book and movie.
Mirage
Men. Yeah, you got it. I'd say start with the documentary and then look at the book and then try to interview the guy who wrote it, whose name is escaping me. But I used a lot of his work in episode 4 of our Hidden Hand Behind UFO film series. It's
How do you spell Mirage?
Mirage, men.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah, it's free. You can watch it for free online. I advise everybody watching this show just take the time this week to check out that film. It's so useful. But you'll find that there's some of the key players in that are affiliated with what becomes the Robert Bigelow complex, which is also there behind the Academy of the Stars operation by what's his name from Blink 182.
Oh yeah. I know who you're talking about. What is that guy's name? Tom
DeLonge.
DeLonge. Yep.
So he's overseen by Hal Puthoff and a bunch of spooks from the military-industrial CIA complex. That's directly on their website, and that's where David Grush and company were all organized around this very small network that were always trying to unify basically horror movies with ET culture, and just they incubated them separately, and the idea was always to bring them in to be two sides of the same thing. Ever since Jacques Vallée wrote his Passenger to Magonia book back in '69, overseen by Hynek, which basically introduced the interdimensional alien hypothesis. That's the first time it emerged.
You say that, but you mean because there's a Jason movie where he's in space, and it was just weird how
they're just running out of ideas.
Yeah, they just start combining them with alien versus like horror at the same time. Where now you got both of them in the same fucking genre.
Was that one of the original Jason movies, or was that a newer Halloween?
Oh, not like original, not like the first 3, but there's one where Jason literally goes in space. There's the astronaut, somehow he's in the spaceship and he starts killing everybody in space.
Yeah. They were just running out of ideas.
Yeah. Well,
And again, that's kind of to scare you about space. Eddie Bravo says it all the time. They try to scare you about going into the forest. They try to scare you about going into the oceans because there's stuff in there that they don't want you to see.
Yeah, know your limits, slave, right? Like that's the ethos of the feudal serf of the medieval times. They want to bring back where you're just as scared, you're afraid to go into the ocean because look at the maps and the pictures of the monsters and the stories you're being told by the survivors of the dragon from the sea that is telling you stories that they're repeating to keep you in a very small, unimaginative place.
In your 15-minute city,
Little 15-minute city, yeah, exactly.
Don't leave. So I want to end on this because this has been, dude, you cry. I can't believe you haven't been on earlier. This is an absolute banger of an episode. How do you live your life? How do you interact with normies? Because you know so much. I mean, I know a lot, but you know a lot. Like, how do you interact with people? How do you walk amongst the normies?
Oh, dude, that's not an easy answer at all, man. We could have a whole conversation about that. I mean, it's obviously, I think philosophically, I try to look for what I said about the babies. I try to hold that to everybody. I try to look for the like little flame of goodness at varying amplitudes that must be there inside of everybody philosophically. So I'm not trying to necessarily, you can't spill this stuff on people who are not ready for it. Their metaphysical infrastructure can't handle certain.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. So
they must just disconnect. You must just see them just disconnect when you start bringing up any of this stuff.
The eyeballs just.
Yeah. I see it all the time.
Yeah. So, I mean, you want to try to reduce that happening as much as possible. And I guess you guys all have your own trial and error experience. For me, it's like I try to just keep an attitude of trying to have love in my heart and look for opportunities to bring in an awakening of ideas or some irony that could be brought in maybe as a joke or something, or a story or an anecdote that I could tell that might get people to be interested in something in a nonlinear way. Like if I want to, I was talking to a friend of mine who's not at all political, right? But they do like true crime. So I'm like, okay, I could talk to that. So I've done some work on Jack the Ripper. And I know I've that's actually a big part of one of my books was just some of the research I was doing on like what's really up with and what's behind the Jack the Ripper murders. So I was able to talk a little bit about something that they were passionate about with the Jack the Ripper, but then I was also then able to introduce, because they have that passion, that's something, they don't care about politics. They don't care about greater Israel, conversations. But you can't understand the Jack the Ripper murders if you don't understand the greater Israel agenda and the rebuilding of Solomon Temple cult, which there's a reason why Sir Charles Warren, right, is in charge of the Metropolitan Police overseeing the Jack the Ripper murders, who's the same guy who's overseeing with King Edward VII.
What? Are you telling me there's a connection between Jack the Ripper and the Greater Israel Project?
That's what he said.
Oh, yeah. It's the same thing.
What?
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Oh my God, dude. We gotta get you back. I can't just end on that because it's so crazy. That's so can you give me a 2-minute version that I can just think about till you come back on?
What a year to end. What episode to end 2025?
What? That's the most 2025 story I've heard. Jack, there's a connection between Jack the Ripper and the Greater Israel Project.
And the ISIS Urania Lodge in London in 1887. Yeah.
Oh my God, what is it? Just give us a little taste.
Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's creation of Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes is involved in the character?
Well, Conan Doyle is, which is tied to why he generated Sherlock Holmes the way he did as an archetypical character. But he's also a member of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, as is Crowley. So okay, in 2 minutes, what's the most provocative way I could say this? I could say that, okay, number one, I'll say it this way. People got to read my book, Revenge of the Mystery Cults, Volume 3.
I just bought Volume 1. I got to get Volume 3 to get this.
Okay, yeah, Volume 1. Oh, my camera just fucked up. So Volume 1 that you just bought is Mystery Babylon and the Age of Aquarius. Volume 2 is Rosicrucian Golem, going through Tesla, the occult Tesla operation, Darwin, Isaac Newton, as different Rosicrucian golems that are part of the same psyop. Then part 3 is the Edgar Allan Poe's Final Mystery and Other Tales of Ratiocination, which goes through the ritual murder of Mary Rogers that Poe was investigating and trying to expose, which had a lot to do with the occult Rosicrucian takeover of U.S. Masonry that was going on in the 1830s, 40s that Poe was fighting against, which is why they killed him. There's one of his, even after he dies, there's somebody who's doing character assassination on Poe, and especially the character of Inspector Dupin that Poe had created. Poe created the whole genre of detective mysteries through his Inspector Dupin and these mysteries of ratiocination that he calls them. One person who does the character assassination in a very duplicitous, disgusting way is this Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn figure named Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Yeah. And I go through that in that story. And if you look at the positions of the bodies of the 5 core women who suffered ritual sacrifice at the time and where they were located in Whitechapel, you will find a direct connection to the Vesica Pisces. You will find a direct connection to the architecture, the supposed architecture of Solomon's Temple. And if you look at the figure specifically of Charles Warren, who is the major grandmaster of the United Grand Lodge and overseer of the Solomon Temple excavation program in Mount Moriah from 1862 onward, as well as the Palestinian Exploration Fund that becomes the foundation of the later Zionist project, overseen by Prince Edward Albert, who becomes King Edward VII a little bit later on, who's obsessed with recreating the kingdom of Jerusalem, but that requires a certain belief in a purgative cleansing of the land and the people living there that have to do it to themselves. And if you look at the people like the Quatuor Coronati Lodge, which emerges out of the Charles Warren program, that's the sort of the Freemasonic Research Lodge that creates the entire biblical archaeology movement. It's the Quatuor Coronati, including the Gnostic revival that sprung out of the Nag Hammadi so-called discovery after World War II, and things like Da Vinci Code and Holy Blood, Holy Grail. That's all a project of the Quatuor Coronati Lodge. That was overseen by a guy named Sir Walter Besant, who's the brother-in-law and handler of Annie Besant, who was assigned to take control of the Theosophical Lodge after Blavatsky, as well as another guy named Robert Anderson, Sir Robert Anderson, a leader within the Plymouth Brethren, who's overseen as the Scotland Yard, the head of Scotland Yard, working with Charles Warren in Whitechapel in 1888, protecting and overseeing this ritual murder that is directly tied to the inner sanctum of Blavatsky and the Hermetic Order and the Isis Urania Lodge as part of fulfilling a program of ritual sacrifice of sacred prostitutes, which has to, in their weird grimoires that they're using, is tied to the justification of the recreation of an idea of a new world religion centered around human sacrifice, mass human sacrifice that they want to normalize, which is how they perceive. That's their perverse idea of what they think of around Solomon's temple as a domain of ancient human sacrifice. And if you look at the Dome of the Rock, which is under, that's the sort of mosque that's there today, overseeing underneath which you find a rock. That's the rock, the mythical rock around which supposedly Abraham was commanded to sacrifice his child, and which, in the Bible, he was stopped. In their secret texts that they take very seriously, like the Testament of Solomon that was produced in like the 13th century. It's not even a real ancient text, but they take this stuff seriously. The idea of Solomon is not the man who struggles with goodness and his inner weaknesses as the moral figure in the public Old Testament. From them, it's a figure who was a demonologist wielding hordes of demons who built his temple and around which he worshipped to Moloch and Baal and these things. That's what they want to bring back. And Sir Charles Warren talks extensively about his belief of the ancient canals underneath that rock, of which there's two chambers, and then pipes that go from the chambers outward into the land adjacent in today's Palestine, is a domain where the blood and refuse was sent out into the land to reinforce this identity of blood and soil as an organizing principle for society, and around which the high priesthood would be managed. So that's, I think, part of what's in play even today.
So what do you believe, that Jack the Ripper was a guy, or was it a secret society group?
It was a group, and one of the key figures was a witch, a male witch named Sir Robert Donston Stevenson, who was a close friend of Charles Warren. And you could prove that he was the key figure carrying out a lot of the kills, but it couldn't have been just him. It would have had to have been at least a group of 5 to 7, maybe more, overseen by him. But again, we could have a whole show on this.
Yeah, we're going to do it, dude. My God, bro. You came in bazookas. Yeah. Absolute banger of an episode. Couldn't think of a better episode to end on. We got cliffhanger. We'll come back and discuss that whole thing. But Matt, absolutely great to have you on. Can't believe it's taken this long. You have an open door to come back anytime you want. One more time, tell them where they can find you.
Hey, thank you so much, man. Well, they can go to CanadianPatriot.org, Substack, MatthewEhret.substack.com. The third one is RisingTideFoundation.net. And like I said, most of our documentaries are freely available to watch, including the Hidden Hand Behind UFOs series, and our new film, Edgar Poe's Final Mystery, is a 2-hour film we just finished producing.
Does that talk about Jack the Ripper?
That sets the stage. It's part 1. This one goes through, I mentioned the ritual murder of Mary Rogers in New Jersey at the Sybil's Cave that Poe was exposing. This film goes through that story, which sets the stage to understand what's behind the Jack the Ripper murder, and which will be in part 2 that we'll release hopefully in February or so.
Well, Matt, you knocked it out of the park. One of the best episodes we've ever had. Whoa. And yeah, man, let's break down the episode. Talk about going out with a bang, dude. Yeah, I mean, talk about going out with a bang. I mean, this might be one of the best episodes we've ever done. I mean, that is the deepest shit I've ever heard in my life, especially how it ended.
Dude, little cliffhanger.
I mean, dude, Jack the Ripper's connected to the Greater Israel Project. I mean,
boy, you could give me a lot of guesses, and I wouldn't have gotten to that one.
I would never have gotten that at all. Oh my God, Matt Ehret is amazing. He was fire. I can't believe it's taken him this long to get on the show. I mean, that guy's got. I mean, That guy has some serious knowledge.
Greater Israel Project is like the Kevin Bacon of conspiracies. You know, it's
Dude,
just
Johnny, that might be the funniest thing you've ever said. I mean, that
Everybody.
might be. It's just
Everybody.
5 degrees of the Greater Israel Project.
Yeah, it truly is. It's the easiest game on the planet.
Yeah, that is so funny, dude. I mean, the hidden hand is everywhere.
Everywhere.
I mean, the use of false flags, that's all they do. They just false flag everything.
Totally.
It's like mind-blowing to me.
It's interesting too, Spielberg, you know, with this, I mean, it's called Disclosure Day. It couldn't be more on the nose. And I don't know if you've seen it, Sam, the trailer, but it literally shows them like taking over people's bodies, like lizard people kind of thing. It looks like that's what it's going to be about. Anyway, you can see their eyes. You know how people are always pulling those videos and showing like, look at this guy's eyes. You know, he's a lizard. It shows that in the trailer, like a close up of somebody's eyes, and you can see them like changing from whatever, you know, the creature is to.
And what's weird to me is we were just talking about it, and I went on YouTube just to watch some stuff, and it showed me the trailer, and I thought it was coming out in a couple months. It's not out till like June 26, which is like
middle of next year.
Yeah, which is they're promoting it for now. A movie being promoted that early is very weird.
Yeah, I agree. It's very weird. If you go to samtripoli.com, you can get everything you need. You can get tickets to my live shows. I have 2 more live. After this, I have 2. I have a bunch of dates I haven't put on the website, but the end of 2025, early in January, New Year's Eve, I'll be in Morris playing at the Dojo Comedy with Robbie the Fire Bernstein, Shane Cashman, Howie Dewey from Cash Daddies, and then Word War Debate WWI will be the first show in Atlantic City at the ACX1 Studios next to Caesar's Palace. Yeah, so I'm very excited about that. Very excited about that. All my videos are there. I'm telling you, it's the best place to get Sam Tripoli videos. My premium content, I'm telling you, I'll put up against anybody, anytime, all the time. Right? You know, I mean, it's just pure fire. Kurt Metzger, Austin Picard, Brad Binkley, Chad Zumach, if you love Chad Zumach.
Who doesn't love Chad Zumach?
I do deep conspiracy rewinds on all the biggest videos on the internet. We break them down together. It's a live stream. Sometimes I do them late night. Johnny, talk about Cash Daddies. I need to hear about it now.
Cash Daddies is a place where you can go if you'd like to secure your financial future. Howie Dewey is an expert in all things finance, investing, stocks, retirement. He can give you some, you know, sound advice on those things, as well as, you know, if you go there, you get hooked up with a great community of people who all share ideas with each other and you know, all with the same goal, which is, you know, taking care of their futures and their families.
Yep. It's an amazing place. People making money there. You know, you're investing, so there's always risk. But we've been beating the S&P every year, I think, since we started Patreon. You can see the Chaos Twins. That shit is amazing. It's on fire. It's if you're looking for family-friendly entertainment for your kids to help them learn to read and learn about the world around them, check out the Chaos Twins. I'm so blessed. If you go back to samtripoli.com, go down, t-shirts. T-shirts, we already went through. T-shirts are great. You got all the classics, plus the brand new shirts coming out. Tinfoil hat, the most trusted name in news. That shirt should be out soon. Very excited. PSYOP season, no days off. All that is great, dude. Anything? What else we got? Oh, I want to give it up for. I want to say something. There's a couple sponsors who've been sponsoring the show for a very long time, and that is Wise Wolf Gold and Silver and Copy My Crypto. If you want support them, just go to Sam Tripoli. Just go to copymycrypto.com/Sam Tripoli or samtripoli.gold for Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. Support them. Make sure they understand that, you know, that they're appreciated for sponsoring the show. They help us pay our bills. We're very thankful. And then finally, Chemical Free Body. I get my supplements from them. And I just want to thank Tim James for a year of helping me feel better. So go check all those things out. XG, you got anything?
Hit that like button, subscribe. Go to my YouTube channel, XG Marks the Spot. We've been doing really good over there. So go hit that like button, subscribe.
Yeah, and then Johnny?
Yeah, Broken Simulation. We're wrapping up the year. We'll have a new episode out for you guys. I have no idea what's in it yet, but it's great. Believe me.
I love it. And, again, if you can check out the YouTube, youtube.com/tinfoilhatofficial, help us beat the lizard tech people and support the show.
Yeah, if you want to help Broken Sim beat the lizard tech people, you can review it on whatever podcasting app you're in, and then if you send a screenshot on Twitter to @BrokenSim, we'll follow you back, and you can DM us whatever.
So
whatever you want.
Finally, it's the last show of the year. I said some kind of 2 episodes ago, but I'll say it again. I can't thank you guys for a show that just celebrated 9 years. To be a top 100 show is absolutely insanity, especially with what we talk about. So thank you. And when you come up to me and say you love the show or to change your life or you start a podcast because you love the show, that means the world to me. And it's better than anything. I don't always sell a lot of tickets on the road, but the people that come, I feel the love. I give you love. And I'm just so appreciative of you. Johnny, do you have anything to say?
No, it was a great year, everybody. I'm looking forward to next year. Appreciate you all, especially those of you who, keep things positive in the comments, which so many of you do. I especially appreciate that. People who are, because the discussion's always just super interesting. If you get in the comments, the discussions people have, and I've been, I'm really appreciative of that. The community around the show.
Yeah,
XG.
Great year. I'm excited for episode 1000. I really can't wait for that because I know all you guys are going to show up because episode 500 was amazing. So I can't imagine what 1000 is going to bring. Thank you, Sam. And I honestly appreciate all the DMs you guys sent me, all the videos, even though sometimes it's the same video over from the same people. I appreciate it because I get to learn new things before anybody else. Literally, like before I watched so many cool videos. So I appreciate you guys.
There's no more loving fan base than the Swarm.
Yeah.
And without you guys, I don't know where I'd be. And I appreciate you for giving me a career, giving me a life. And let's crush these next 48. Let's do a big ass 1000 show. Are we even gonna? Yeah, we'll do it in 2026. So let's have a great year together. Let's all grow and learn. And guys, remember, you're just trying to learn the game plan. You can't let them blackpill you. Once you get blackpilled, you've lost. So it's not about righting wrongs or fixing the system. It's about protecting yourself and your family by buying gold, silver, land, guns, getting closer to God. I think that's a big part of this journey for me with this show is coming to Jesus and understand that I'm not perfect. I am a flawed man. I do not walk on water, but I'm trying my hardest. And I appreciate you guys showing me love, even though I'm a flawed person in so many different ways, including my reading and vocabulary. You guys put up with it, and I'm very thankful. So I want you all to have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, happy holidays, and I want you guys to crush your New Year's. Don't do anything stupid. Just get through the new year. Let's get to 2026, and let's just continue to love each other and get the word out, and be the best versions of ourselves. Okay. So for everybody here on the show, Dana, Mark, Robin, who works on clips for us. Who else is that? I mean, there's so many people that work on the show.
Mark,
they never get met. What?
Mark.
I said Mark.
No,
I'll say Mark again.
I got a block on him, I guess.
Okay. I just want to say.
Did you say Dana? I didn't hear that either.
Yeah, I did say Dana.
Okay. Yeah, I got a block.
Dana does a huge part of the show. We're so thankful to all of you for all the love you have shown us over the years. So have a great holidays, and we'll see you in 2026. Enjoy the highlights.
Here's a clip from the latest Broken Sim.
Boy, this Rob Reiner thing just gets weirder and darker.
Weirder. And no, dude, it's not getting weirder, Johnny. It's just becoming more obvious.
Well, the Conan thing is weird, though. That's a weird detail.
That's the weird part.
Okay, so
that's a weird part.
Rob Reiner, obviously, he was a famous actor on TV, and then became a
meathead.
director. Yeah, he was Meathead, and then he became a famous director, a big time director, Hollywood
Big
director.
time director.
Huge.
Big time.
For people of your
Huge.
generation, right? Like he is omnipresent.
And what do you mean by your generation, Johnny?
Well, I mean, I was not.
Are you a bigot?
Meathead was before my time, but like for you, but like for your life, he's been there from the jump to now, right? Or,
100%. 100%.
And so we hear in LA a couple of days ago that there's been the police are at his house. That's how it first breaks, that the police have been called to Rob Reiner's house.
And then they don't announce who it is, but they give the ages. It's so crazy to me.
People are dead.
We can't tell you who it is, but he was 67 and she was.
Yeah, we're waiting for
really
the next
sad
to be notified. And then you hear, and we'll have to be careful how we talk about this.
Watch your mouth, Johnny.
Then you hear that Larry David is there and like some other celebrity are there, or, like first on the scene, basically, after the police. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. And then you hear that a family member is involved, and then people start speculating that it's his son because there's been a lot of weird energy with his son, going back to a film that he made with his son about him kicking his addiction, or supposedly kicking it, a couple of years ago. And you can go back, and if you want to do like hindsight is 2020, you can watch these interviews with him and his son, and he's just a weird kid, man. He's got a malignant sort of energy over him. If anybody's possessed, it's someone like that, I would say. Or who knows?
Yeah, he has the energy of someone who's been traumatized.
Yes. Yeah. And then today, Sam sends me a story, right? Conan is having his holiday party, and Rob Reiner and his son are there, which is weird to go to a party with your son. I find that bizarre. But Rob Reiner and his son are there, and somebody wants to call the police on Rob Reiner's son, to get like a psychiatric hold on him because, maybe threatening violence or something like that. And Conan O'Brien talks them out of it. He doesn't want the police at his house. And that was the day before this happened?
Yeah. I mean, Conan cannot be sleeping right now.
That's what the story you sent me said, that he's like racked with guilt. Like, what could I have changed this?
I mean, I have no ill will towards Conan O'Brien. I've always enjoyed him.
Yeah, me too.
He's super on the progressive side, but it never defined him, right?
No.
Like, he's progressive. He's progressive to the bone. He shits rainbows. We know that, right? But he never, he was like, obviously he's from a different generation, right? Even though he's probably the same age as Jimmy Kimmel, maybe a couple years older.
No,
but
he's a Harvard elite through and through, but he served the joke, right? Like that was his first loyalty, was to the joke. Unlike,
but you never go, oh, Conan's getting too political.
No.
He always just made fun of everybody, and he was a great writer, and he was funny, and and there's just some, he definitely has some weirdness to him. Like when his father died, they made jokes that Bateman did it.
Dude, that was crazy. That was so crazy.
Again, and this is the problem with anything, right? With anybody passing and how people close to them mourn. We think there's one way to mourn.
And there's not. Yeah.
And there's not.
Which,
and especially
comedy people will say the worst thing right after. I mean,
bro, if you want to go to the all-time classic comedy, go to a memorial of a comedian. You'll never hear better comedy in your life. And if you're lucky, Brian Holtzman will be there and get up before everyone does his jokes that he does, and you'll laugh your ass off at what he says. I mean, dude, when Jeff died at the Comedy Store, right? I mean, dude, the things that were coming out Brian Holtzman's mouth were making all the comedians laugh, and his family just cringe. Jeff's family.
Oh, really? Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
It was hilarious. And I remember Ramsey, when he was the overweight guy that died, and we were just worried about, were there going to be enough people to have a show there? It's so sad that we had to worry about selling tickets or filling a room for a guy's death.
When was that?
This had to be 8 years. I don't know how long Ramsey's been gone. It's got to be 8 years. It's a long time ago. It's like when the first time I ever met Big J from Legion of Skanks.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first time I met him, dude. And, everyone was just saying the most insane shit there, and it was so hilarious. I talked about my biggest regret was not doing coke off of Ramsey's tits in front of his family.
How did they take that?
Everyone laughed. I don't know if they laughed, but like if you're a family member and you have a family member that was a comic and you're going to go to his memorial, buckle up. Buckle up. Because weird shit's about to be said. And that's kind of how I like, that's why it's so much fun.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, Conan's not one of those guys where I think that, they're part of the problem in Hollywood.
No, he probably just doesn't, he's like, do I want a headline? And this guy, Rob Reiner, probably didn't want the police called because it's something he's dealt with over and over again. Although, if you read the story, at the bottom of the story, it says that Rob Reiner was saying to somebody near to him recently that, like, what is this life where I have to be worried about my own son, like, harming me? I mean, that was something he told to like someone he was close to recently.
It can't be easy. It can't be easy.
You also do have this roast. I think it was a roast where you have Al Franken.
Everyone did jokes about him.
Yeah, about him.
Jokes. I mean, come on.
Letting people.
If you'd like to hear the rest of this episode, subscribe to Broken Simulation in your podcasting app or check us out at youtube.com/Sam Tripoli.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Tinfoil hat.